Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
Welcome to the North Idaho College Public Forum, and with this particular program we bring to an end the 33rd year on PBS of this particular program, and the good news is that we plan on being back with you again next week to initiate the 34th year. It's a long time to be with you, wonderful viewers, and we appreciate that opportunity, and we particularly thank the Board of Trustees and the administration, staff, faculty, and students and community for being so supportive. On our last program of the 33rd year, we have a very special guest. We welcome to the program Lita Burns. She is the director of the North Idaho College Health Professions and Nursing Department and Program. She came to us a few years ago and has a remarkable program. North Idaho College is known for the quality of its nursing program and its health professions. Welcome to our program and congratulations. I know your students excel as some of the high scores in the state of Idaho. You run a quality program. And our topic today with our guest is the status of the nursing profession in America today. And with that, I introduce our regular panelist, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho. And next to her is Erna Reinhardt, who is the director of public relations at North Idaho College. And this is our tradition. Janelle will commence today's questioning with me saying, first of all, that as we're taping this program of the week of May 6th, it is Nursing Week in America, although it's being aired at a later time. And with that, Janelle will start the questioning.
Welcome to the program, Lita. It's a pleasure to have you here. Many of our viewers probably have heard all the letters that stand for various kinds of nurses, LPNs, and CNA, RN. What do all of those mean, and can you identify for us a little bit what those various kinds of nurses are?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Starting with CNA, and that stands for Certified Nursing Assistant. Just a little bit of history here. For many, many years in our country, nursing assistants were just that, hired to just come in and help the nurses do whatever they needed to do. And were always completely and totally supervised by the nurses, and so it didn't really matter that they had any education or training to do that. And so they would come in and assist the nurses, and the nurses would direct them in what they needed to do. However, as we progressed, they took on more important roles, things like taking vital signs and measuring input, output, those sorts of things. And we realized in this country that we needed to have people be knowledgeable about what they were doing and perform their role. And so then across the United States, the requirement came that they be certified in order to work in acute care settings and in long-term care settings in particular, but now that it's expanded to every facet of health care, that you have to be certified to work with clients. And so the CNAs, or Certified Nursing Assistants, take a short course, and that's a little different in every state. In the state of Idaho, it's a 120-hour course, 80 hours of didactic or classroom, and 40 hours of clinical. And at the end of that, they have to do both a skills test and a written test, and then they become certified and can work in various health care settings after that. From that point, then we look at, we move on to the licensed practical nurse, and in many parts of the country that role is called the licensed vocational nurse, but primarily it's the same role. This is typically a short-term educational program. At our college, it's an 11-month program, but you will see them anywhere from 9 to 12-month programs. Actually, and that's expanding as well. In the state of Idaho, there's 2 schools that offer a 2-year LPN program. The licensed practical nurse is required to work under the direct supervision of either a physician or a registered nurse. So they don't have full autonomy in their practice. And their education then sort of serves that, in that they are the doers. They are the bedside people, the direct caregivers. They carry out all the orders of the physician under the direction of a registered nurse. They do, at the completion of their education program, take a national licensing exam, which makes them the licensed practical nurse and become licensed by the state of Idaho or their home state. The next one is the most complicated one, and that's the registered nurse. The reason it's complicated is we have varying levels of education that all result in the registered nurse. For historically, it was a 4-year program to become a registered nurse, a baccalaureate program to become a registered nurse. Then also, in addition to that, we had hospital-based nursing programs. And the hospital-based nursing programs were called diploma programs. The nurses at the end of that would receive a diploma for their nursing degree. However, it was not associated with formal education in higher education setting, but both of them resulted in registered nurses. In about the 50s, because of the nursing shortage, an additional role came about, not an additional role, but an additional level of education came about to produce a registered nurse, and that was the 2-year or the associate degree program, which we have here at North Idaho College. So you can be educated for 2 years. The diploma programs are typically 3 years or 4 years, and all of those students end up with an education that allows them to sit for a national licensing exam, which when they pass it, then they become registered nurses. And again, the registered nurse is the license they receive from a state, from a licensing board in the state in which they reside. So that's why nursing sometimes is very, very complicated, because you have these various levels of education that all produce a registered nurse. Like Tony was saying earlier, for our graduates, we are extremely pleased with the product of our students, because they take the same national licensing board that 4-year programs take, and typically we are able to have the percentage rate on our boards. The passing percent rate is extremely high, and much higher than most of the baccalaureate programs and many of the associate degree programs as well. So we're very proud of the graduates who leave North Idaho College, and they're very successful. Yes.
Erna Reinhardt.
That was an excellent explanation. Thank you. Lita, explain to us, just in the RN program, how that training that the students receive is balanced between classroom and clinical setting, because I think that hands-on training that is provided through that experience is so crucial in so many fields, but especially in the nursing field.
Okay. And I'm going to correct you just a little bit, because it's sort of one of my little soapboxes, if you will. In the past, in many years past, particularly when we had diploma education for nurses, we did call it nurses training. And so when you hear, and a lot of people refer to nurses training, when we brought it into the area of higher education, we like to change that terminology to nursing education, because there truly is a difference between training and education. And we really want people to believe and to understand that what we are doing is educating individuals to be nurses and to be able to perform the roles of nursing. So when they come into nursing, you're right, there's 2 distinct parts to nursing education. One is the theoretical part, and that's where they learn all of absolutely the theory. And they have to base that theory on strong foundations of science, the anatomy and physiology, chemistry, biological sciences, and math, heavy math as well. And then we build our nursing theory on top of that. They get that in the classroom. Typically 2 days a week of a 5-day week, they are in the classroom. And then 2 days a week, then they go out to the clinical settings. And it's really half and half. Half of the credits they receive in nursing come from that clinical hands-on experience, where they are required to perform the role of the nurse as they receive the education to be able to do that. Before we take them out into the clinical settings, we bring them into our lab on campus, which is set up much like a hospital environment or a clinical environment. And they practice all of their skills on each other, on the mannequins. We are fortunate to have what we call SimMan now, which is a mannequin that is able to talk, to breathe, to have a heartbeat, and you can do everything on him and he responds to you, and he'll say, "Ouch, that hurts." And so it provides a even more realistic environment for our students to be able to learn as much as they possibly can in a very safe and controlled environment before we take them out into the clinical settings. And so then they spend 2 days a week and anywhere between 12 and 18 hours a week in clinical settings, getting ready to become nurses.
Lita, being here a long time, I've followed your program. I'm such a great fan of how incredibly high quality it is, and one of your counselors has briefed me many times on what you do. We have a lot of students who want to get into the program, particularly the Registered Nursing Educational Program, which is the equivalent of the baccalaureate and what they go through. And for those who are viewing in our audience, or our viewers who are young and would like to do this, give some advice. I know a lot of students come here and go through a lot of preparation before they can even be admitted, like in courses in the sciences. Now, what recommendation, if the student's just getting out of high school, depending on how they performed and their commitment, but what advice do you have them to prepare them to apply for admissions to an institution such as ours?
To be quite honest with you, Tony, I like to be able to talk to people early, even in their high school years, because I think the foundation that they receive in high school really allows us to be able to build on that, the knowledge that they gain in high school. So if anyone is even thinking of any healthcare fields, particularly nursing, as a career for them, then I recommend, like I said earlier, that they spend some time with the sciences, take every science course they could possibly take in high school. If they have Biology 2, Biology 1, Biology 2 in high school, to take that. If they have the advanced placement courses in high school that allows them to take anatomy and physiology, certainly I recommend that. The chemistries are so important. And then math, the same thing. So many students have the ability and they're just so bright that they can complete all of their math within the first couple of years of high school and have met all the requirements for high school. The students are so advanced anymore. But I encourage them not to stop there, to continue to take math, because, sometimes if you're not sticking with math and science, you kind of forget how you think in that pattern. And it's a different pattern of thinking for the sciences than it is other types of learning. So certainly I would recommend to them to take as much science and as much math as they can, and then balance their lives with the things that they enjoy as well, the English, the literature, that sort of thing.
And writing would be important.
Writing is absolutely important as well. We need good communication skills.
Yes.
We need our students to have really good communication skills. So those things that we like to see.
And there's a real close relationship between math and chemistry and its success, too.
Yes, it is. That's true. You need to have a strong math background in order to be successful in chemistry. When they come to our college, getting in there and not being afraid of taking the sciences. So many of the students that I advise, they have already been at North Idaho College maybe a year, maybe 3 semesters, and they've taken every course they possibly need for the nursing program except for the sciences, because they're nervous and shy about taking that. But I think if they would begin that from the beginning and learn that pattern of studying, how to study in the sciences, then it would just be a flow, a continuum for them, and they wouldn't find it nearly as hard. So that would be the other recommendation I would take. And the same would hold true for, because we are a community college and serve a different population, sometimes typically than four-year schools, the same recommendation would be true for students who are returning. Sometimes we have students who have been out 10, 15, 20, 25 years since high school education, and I would recommend the same thing to them. When they come, figure out where they're at with math, do the compass testing, know where their level is, and then begin to build on that knowledge in math and the science courses. Don't shy away from it, even if you have to take a couple of those courses before you get into the tough ones like anatomy and physiology, taking a basic biology course and then moving into those tougher science courses. Not that biology's a piece of cake by any means, but at least it's a beginning level of stepping point.
We have viewers in 7 states and in Western Canada. This is a great contribution because there'll be students applying at other schools and colleges, and you've given them a wonderful guideline to go by, and we appreciate that. Janelle Burke.
We're reading a great deal right now in the media about the possibility of nursing shortages. Can you please tell us what is the future of nursing?
And it's not a possibility, it's a reality. And I think the reason that we read about it as a possibility is because in North Idaho and the greater Spokane area, we're not feeling or seeing that nursing shortage like we are in other places in the country. It absolutely is not occurring here like the rest of the country. But the reality is it's the same story. It's the baby boomer situation in that, first of all, most of the nurses practicing currently are from that baby boomer generation, which means that they have just a few years left before they're thinking about retirement. And having that great numbers of nursing retire almost all at the same time is going to leave us with fewer practicing nurses. What also sort of happened was in the 80s, when we began to have the technology boom in this country and had people going into the computer industry, women, for one of the first times in the country, had options besides nursing of things that they might want to do with their lives. For many years in this country, if you were a female and wanted higher education, you became either a teacher or you became a nurse, because people didn't consider you to be serious about anything else. And during that time period, then, we lost a lot of ground in educating nurses and having nurses as practicing nurses out in the field. So we relied very heavily on the baby boomer generation to provide nursing in the acute care settings, long-term care settings, really everywhere. At the same time, we're losing the nurses who are in practice. Those who are retiring, we are having greater and greater numbers of elderly, older adults who require a tremendous amount of nursing care. You know that most people receive the majority of the health care that they receive in their lifetime, they receive during the last 3 years of their life. And so the older you get, obviously that just compounds the amount of health care services that you will need. And as we see people living into their 70s, 80s, 90s, and we have centenarians now, they need that health care provided. So we have greater numbers of people needing health care at a time when we have fewer people providing health care. So that is what has created the nursing shortage out there. And for the next 25 to 50 years, we anticipate it's only going to get worse. We don't see it ever getting better, really, in my lifetime, or probably even my children's lifetime. So that's happening all over the country. We see it very strong on both coasts, the East Coast, the West Coast, and in the South is where the greatest shortages are occurring in this country. Why we don't have it here primarily is because of the nursing program at North Idaho College. The college here is providing adequate numbers of nurses for our community hospitals and long-term care facilities, clinics, to really be able to keep them not probably oversupplied, but certainly have adequate supply of nurses. And the same thing is true for Spokane. Spokane Community College and the Intercollegiate Center for Nursing also has provided enough nurses for that area as well. So we're not feeling that impact in our area. But nursing is going to continue to be a wonderful career for anyone who chooses to come into this field for any number of years.
They will be employed.
They absolutely will be employed. It was just before I came over. We're getting ready, of course, to graduate another group of nurses, and I can't off the top of my head. I think we're graduating about 45, right around there this year, and was just being told how many of our nurses already have employment. And this year, for one of the first times, I think we're going to see a lot of our nurses go to other areas. Usually, the majority of our nurses stay right here in Kootenai County. We usually lose about a third of our graduating classes to the Spokane area, but most of them stay here. Now I've heard we have nurses going to Portland, to Nevada, to, just really all over, which is great for them in that they're marketable, and they can just choose to work wherever they want in this country. So that's a wonderful thing for them. And I think we will still have plenty left here to meet the needs of Kootenai Medical Center and the other places that need RNs as well. So we're pleased with that.
Thank you. Reverend Reinhardt.
Lita, we've talked a lot about nursing, but I'd like to broaden that just a little bit and share with us maybe some of the emerging new professions that are coming into the health professions field, and then some of the new training programs that are going along with that, because healthcare is changing so much, and we're all living a little bit longer, and some of those things I think have affected the different kinds of fields that are now available to people.
Well, certainly healthcare is probably one of the biggest industries in this country, and the industry that most consistently grows anywhere in the country. So you're right in saying that is emerging and will continue to move in that direction. One of the areas I think that we are trying to serve in the capacity that we can from the community college setting is that of pharmacy. Pharmacy is facing some of the same issues that nursing is, in that their generation of healthcare providers come from the same era that those nurses do, and many of them are in the retiring phase as well. And because of the pharmacy shortage in this country, we are seeing greater numbers of pharmacy technicians being used to provide services from the pharmacies, both in the hospital setting and the retail settings. So we are fortunate that we have a pharmacy technology program here at North Idaho College, and can attempt to try to meet the needs of our local pharmacies in terms of providing workers for them as well. Radiology is another industry that has just really gotten bigger and bigger, and probably partly because of all the research and all the therapy that is being done with radiation now. For many years we used radiation only from a diagnostic perspective, trying to figure out and diagnose what is going on with people. Well, now the whole trend is to use radiation in a variety of therapies, particularly to treat many different kinds of cancer. And so that is a field that's booming. We are hopeful that very soon we will have the state approve a radiology technology program here at North Idaho College, and we hope to be able to start that program in the next year or so as well. The other area that I think that we have not yet provided education here at North Idaho College, but will need to do so in the near future, is the whole area of gerontology. Again, our country is moving that way. The demographics in North Idaho certainly are moving that way. The people coming into North Idaho have a tendency to be in that over 40 category, and so I think that we will need to be able to provide a variety of workers who know how to take care of the elderly and the aging Americans that will be living with us and among us. So, and I'm sure that we will be up to that challenge of being able to provide that education and provide those types of workers for them.
Oftentimes when you have a challenge, you also have some positive things that are coming from it. Two professions that were so low paid for so long, one was in the nursing field and the other one was law enforcement. Law enforcement still has that struggle, but because of these shortages, it's my understanding that the pay scale for particularly registered nurses and those even with advanced degrees is really changed. Am I correct when I've heard statements that for example, a nurse with a baccalaureate degree or anyway, the registered nurse status can go to an area like Los Angeles and start out with something like $60,000 a year?
That would be a correct statement. Particularly when you look at the sign-on bonuses that people are offering and the relocation packages that they are offering to get nurses to those areas, those very hard-hit shortage areas. Even in our own communities, though, it is not uncommon to see starting salaries for RNs be anywhere between, and I'm going to give hourly rather than annual, but anywhere between $20 and $26 an hour for RNs just coming out of our associate degree program. So yes, it has been a wonderful thing for nurses to have them valued in that way, because certainly for many years the work that they did was not reflected in the salaries that they received.
Again, your faculty is incredibly high quality, as it has been at other institutions, particularly this one. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves about scores and results. But aren't you now on the other side of that coin being challenged because your faculty could leave this institution or others similar to it and get out in the field, can get a larger salary than they get for teaching? So is that going to be a challenge around America to have enough qualified faculty members to stay in the field to teach those who are going out and make more than they do?
Yes, it's not going to be a challenge. It currently is a challenge. It is absolutely true. Our graduates who are leaving this year, many of them will be employed their first year of employment, making more than some of the faculty who are master's prepared, have a higher level of education, and have many years of nursing experience besides nursing education experience. It absolutely is a huge challenge, and the challenge is that as well, as you were speaking of, and I'd like to move into that a little bit as well, is finding the faculty to replace it. It's unfortunate to say that there's not a lot of incentive to come into higher education as a faculty member, work really hard, because the faculty do spend many, many hours, very devoted people to teaching, and when they know that they could probably stay in industry, hospital settings, long-term care settings, and make greater salaries. Thank goodness, up to this point, we've always been able to find faculty who wanted to do that, people who wanted to come into education and to do that. But really, the majority of faculty are of an aging population, and in the next 10 years, we will lose, probably a third or more of the entire nursing education faculty in this country. It's scary.
What I'm about to say is heresy, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. And it's been such equity, and understand, so if you're a faculty member at a college and you have the same number of degrees, you've taught the same number of years, now there's a scale that you get the same salary. But to deal with this challenge, there may be some areas of teaching, and yours being one of them, that if we're going to really address this problem, if it gets more serious than now, that we may have to look at pay scales at the college level different, not because all the other faculty are not very deserving, but we may not be able to have the adequate faculty if we don't pay them what the market is indicating. Is that something that around the nation is being looked at?
I think it's being talked about everywhere. And in fact, the faculty that I work with, I hate to say my faculty, the faculty I work with, have been investigating that quite extensively because of their concern about salary and all of that. And they actually have found 2 schools in the nation currently at this point where the nursing faculty are paid on a different basis than other faculty in the school for that reason, because they are hard to find. The market value is different. And in order to continue to prepare the numbers of nurses that we are being asked to prepare, you have to have a certain number of faculty. And I think that is different, and maybe something that I should mention as well. The State Board of Nursing actually dictates the number of students you can have per faculty.
Yeah.
And there's not a ratio that is required in the classroom. You can have as many students in the classroom as you want. But when we go out to our clinical settings, we are not allowed to have more than a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every 10 students, we must have at least 1 faculty member.
I have to end on that note. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The clock always wins.
That's fine.
Lita Burns, you've been wonderful to be here, and it's been incredibly informative, and good luck in your work, and congratulations with what quality program you have, and congratulations moving into your new building,
Thank you. Yes,
which you'll be doing by the time this airs. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll be with us again next week. We'll start the 34th year of the North Idaho College Public Forum. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart. What an excellent job you did. That's so much.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.